Good evening, everybody. Like I said before, if you just came in, we are traveling across country in our recreational vehicle, in our camper. So we are in Michigan currently in the woods. It's absolutely beautiful up here. I don't know what part of the country you guys are watching from, but it was in the 50s last night and in the low 80s today, no humidity. So we escaped South Florida, I should say Central Florida, just as bad as South Florida, just in the nick of time. And I'm hoping that this trend continues for quite a while because it's just absolutely beautiful here. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Debbie Barnett. So welcome, and so pleased to have you here with us tonight. These monthly live streams do occur about once a month, give or take some exceptions. And I always like to bring good content to you and things that will help you grow and become a better Mahjong player, or help you if you're an instructor and want some tips on how to better improve your teaching. So this is not just for players, but it's also for instructors. And I do love for you guys to share your thoughts. So after I'm done with the presentation, I'll open this up to Q&A. So keep a little notepad next to you in case you have any questions or you want to add something, because I'm one person who has an opinion about things, and you guys have opinions about things. I want to hear from you, and certainly there are times where I learn from you as well. And that's what it's all about. We're a community. You know, one person isn't better than the next. And yeah, sometimes somebody knows more about the game, maybe a better player, but we're all here to help each other grow. And we all started out as complete beginners. And that's one of the things that we all have to remember and take into consideration. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, tonight's episode is all about good etiquette and sportsmanship. As you can see, I have here, good etiquette and sportsmanship leads to long-lasting Mahjong friendships. And I'm sure that after we go through this presentation, you'll have a lot of things to be thinking about, and even things that you'll want to share with others. And this entire live stream and all of my live streams are up on YouTube within a day or two of having this evening, so that anybody can watch it. You can share it with others as well. Okay, so before we get into some of the situations that occur when we're playing Mahjong, we have to have an understanding of what etiquette and sportsmanship is. So let's look at the definition. And, you know, people might think it's quite simple, where it is, it's quite simple, but not everybody understands exactly what these mean, especially when we talk about how we get to behaving a certain way, especially when it comes to around the Mahjong table. So let's get into it by looking at the etiquette definition, which is the customary code of polite behavior in social or among, there's a little typo I just found, members of a particular profession or group. So that includes our Mahjong groups. Sportsmanship is the quality of showing fairness, respect, and generosity toward the opposing team or player, and for the sport itself when competing. Okay, that applies to Mahjong as well. Now let's move on to understanding habits and behaviors, which are all behind these fun and challenging things that we experience when we're sitting around this fabulous, fun day playing this fabulous, fun game of Mahjong. Okay, well, habits, they can be positive or negative, good or bad. But when a habit is repeated, they become automatic, unconscious, and spontaneous. They are often repeated automatically as a result of a prior experience. And here's a few examples. So, do you remember getting real nervous prior to an exam when you were in school, when you were a kid or in college? Nail biting is an example of something that would happen as a result of being nervous about the exam. Now, it could be your stomach starts rumbling and you have to rush to the bathroom or something like that. I know that there were people that told me, friends of mine that told me they threw up before an exam. I mean, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Another example, and of course, the first one's a negative. A positive example might be you exercise at the beginning of the day because you see it gives you more energy. Now, there's tons and tons of examples, and we're going to see a lot of examples of these things as we get further on into the presentation as it pertains to the Mah Jongg game. Now, a behavior is different than a habit, but behaviors can also be positive and negative. Behaviors are triggered by our nervous system and endocrine system, and they are actually reactions to impulses in the environment. So there's something that happens that triggers our behaviors. They are conscious. They are goal-directed behaviors based on a predicted or an expected result. And we're going to, again, go through a lot more of these. You got that attendee that just came in here? Yes, he did. Okay, cool. So let's look at a few examples of behavior. You decide you want to lose weight. Seeing the numbers on the scale decrease makes you want to continue your new behavior. So if you were to try to lose weight and you got on the scale and the scale went up, even though you may be doing something wrong, you're not going to be encouraged to continue losing weight. You criticize your friend one too many times and she declines invites or stops contacting you altogether. Again, these are just two little teeny tidbits right now, just so you understand the differences here. Now, the old adage is, it takes 21 days to break a habit. But newer research shows it can take anywhere from 18 to 250 days. So I was always so happy to think 21 days, even though I thought 21 days was, wow, still a long time. Now I realize that for some people, it can take a lot longer. What triggers our behaviors? And so what triggers our behaviors and turns them into bad habits? Well, let's take a look at this. This shows you have a cue, you have a routine, and you have a reward. In order for you to break a bad habit or behavior, you must first understand the cues that reinforce the habits and behaviors, change your routine, and then reap the reward. And now we're going to break down some of the cues. All right, let's take a look. The first one is time. Well, what's a time cue? The most common time cue is when you wake up in the morning. Lots of things go on at this time of the day. We get up, we go to the bathroom, we take a shower, brush our teeth, get dressed, have coffee. And then there are other parts of the day that we also have time cues, such as snacking between meals. You may be, that's like an automatic thing you might be doing every day, and that is a routine that happens at a certain time of day. You may brush your teeth after each meal, or I even hate to think that there are still people smoking, but yes, even take a smoking break, because I do sometimes see people smoking now and then. All right, another cue would be location. A good example of a location cue is something like walking into the kitchen and seeing a plate of brownies on the counter. You take one because it's right there in front of you. How can you resist? It's right there. Or maybe you're hungry during the day and you go to take a snack out of the cabinet and you open the cabinet, and what happens? All unhealthy snacks there. Okay? So location-driven habits, which are part of the environment, are the most powerful simply because they exist, because they're there in front of you. One brownie or one unhealthy snack in itself is fine, but those location cues can often lead to repeated behavior, creating a bad habit. Now, what's the third cue? A previously occurring event or happening. Many habits are a response to a prior occurrence. Today's technology creates a lot of challenges for us. So when we hear our phone ding, what do? We look at it immediately, right? We check it out. What was it that was dinging? Is it a text message that came in? We have to see who's texted us. It's like life or death almost these days. Or, I don't know about you, but because I run Facebook groups, I have a special ring notification for Facebook. And as soon as I hear that, I'm looking at my phone. I got to make sure I don't miss any Facebook notifications. All right, and then we have a fourth one, which is the state of mind, the state of our mind. This cue is the most common in creating bad habits. For example, you might eat more when you feel depressed. Anybody relate to that? Or shop online when you're bored. Amazon's our best friend when we're bored, right? The state of mind cue is also the hardest to control because in order for us to change our state of mind, we must be conscious of the behavior, which takes being both emotional and aware at the same time. Even though doing this is difficult, it is the most powerful way to build better habits. Now, how do we change the routine so that we can change our habit? If these patterns are bad habits, take a look at what triggers them and replace them with something else you enjoy or that is beneficial. Instead of taking a smoking break, work on a crossword puzzle, take a short walk, or read a book. These are only a few little examples. Of course, I'm sure you could think of a ton of things, and you've probably put a lot of this into play already. Put your phone on silent or vibrate. Turn off notifications at specific times of the day. Think more about what is causing your behavior so that you can become more conscious of it over time. You know, we've all heard things like if you don't accept and acknowledge, you can't change. I mean, that's been something said. I know that for it's part of the 12-step and other programs. If you don't acknowledge where the problem lies, you can't change it. All righty, let's look at the rewards, okay? The reward, reap the reward. We all like rewards. Well, if we eat healthier, we're gonna live longer. If we're kinder and more caring, and nicer to people, we're going to become a person that others want to be around and enjoy being around. We can then live a more conscious lifestyle and feel good about ourselves and be proud of our accomplishments. And at the same time, be more confident and in control. Your change in behavior will encourage others to do the same. Leading by example is probably one of the most powerful things you can do and a gift that you can give to others. Contribute to a more positive community. And that's what it's all about. All of this that I'm talking about is all going to be relating to your 4-player Mahjong game sitting around the table, or even if you play at a big community center and switch tables. Now, remember, behaviors are conscious while habits are unconscious. So I'm going to take a moment here for you to jot down your 10 decisions as to whether what you read here is a habit or a behavior. Just a little fun quiz for you to do. And then the next screen is going to show the answers so you can just see how well you did. Right there too on the next screen. So, all right. So the next screen is going to have our answers here. And one of them could be, sometimes they could be both. And the one here that I think could be both could be number 8. Could be possibly fall into both a bad habit or behavior. Okay. So you could check over, see how well you did. How did you guys do? You do pretty good? Oh, Agnes says no, thumbs down? Really? Really? Yeah. I mean, this is challenging stuff, but you know, in all honesty, this stuff seems quite rudimentary and simple in terms of thinking if you're just talking to somebody about somebody's bad habit or behavior, but it's so much more than that. And for you, especially if you have something you want to change, you need to understand what's behind it all before you can make the change. And hopefully by making some changes and setting some good examples for others, you could spread this on. So let's go continue. All right, so now we're going to look at some common things that occur when we are around a Mahjong table. And we could talk about how they affect others, right? So when you, let me click this so we can get our question up here. All right, look at that little shake, is that cute? All right, so do you rack your tiles before all the tiles are dealt out? This is something that I struggle with a bit with some long-time players. Okay, I was going to say experienced, but I guess they're both the same. Experienced, long-time players, where they, you know, put all their tiles out, they flip them up, and a lot of times if they're getting all their tiles or they're the last pick, they do it before everybody's got their tiles up. I mean, I don't even like to put my tiles down flat. I leave them in groups of 4, and I've been playing since I'm in my mid-20s. I don't have any problem doing it, and I definitely don't want to find myself short during the game. Because what happens then? Your hand's going to be dead. What's going to happen during the Charleston? You're going to have to start all over again and build your walls again, right? I mean, honestly, it is a lot to do with sportsmanship. This is a lot to do with good etiquette. It's both, okay? Good etiquette and sportsmanship. because good etiquette says, I really need to do this because it's not just going to benefit me, but it's going to benefit the others. Good sportsmanship, it may be, oh, I don't want to have to cause everybody to build their walls again. Yeah. So you could look at it both ways, but this is something I'm really keen about. Keeping your tiles in stacks of 4 until you get them all. All right. Do you touch other people's tiles? I think this is getting better over time. We're hearing a lot more about it. There's more instructors out there teaching properly. But no, you're not supposed to touch anybody else's tiles. So that's another form of good etiquette around the Mahjong table. Do you allow space between your exposures? I know this sometimes is very aggravating to people, but yet there are some that will insist that they don't have to do it because it's not a written rule. Well, it may not be a rule, but there are certain things and certain etiquettes that we've developed over the years to help make the game more smooth, go more smooth, and be, and I don't want to say friendly because I don't like the word friendly versus not friendly game, more enjoyable for everybody. And part of that is spacing out your exposures. Not a big deal. You know, just put a little space between it so nobody gets confused as to 6 and 8 cracks look very similar. Or you might have a joker next to another exposure. If they're grouped together, how do you know what the joker goes with? It's a good reason to nest your jokers, but even if you nest your jokers and your exposures are together, it could be very confusing. Are you a bit too eager to get a joker? It's another thing now that's being talked about quite a bit. It's actually in the new 2024 Mahjong Made Easy rulebook. I'm thrilled about that. They talk about the hand-to-hand exchange when you do a joker exchange. But I mean, for many years, I experienced this sort of thing with several of my Mahjong buddies. Just so anxious to get the joker that they literally take their whole hand and go across the table to get it and grab it. Nicer way to do that would be to just say, may I have your joker, please, and do a hand-to-hand exchange. Are you a bettor? If you are a bettor, have you ever said something like this? Why did you play that hand? Or something of the sorts. It could even be something like, what were you playing? And you have that tone in your voice. Why didn't you go for this? Look, you were closer to that hand than you were to that hand. Not good. We should not be criticizing anybody else for the choices that they make when we're playing Mahjong. We all see the tiles differently. The tiles are certainly in the eyes of the beholder when it comes to this. Oh, Darlene has her whiteboard on. So give me a second. I'm going to have to stop sharing. Hold on. I got to figure this out. Let me see if I can make this larger. I'm so sorry. Darlene, I don't know if you know how to turn off your whiteboard, but it has gone on. So when you click the screen, let's see. Nope, I can't do it there. Might be under. Here we go. Okay. Who can initiate? Host only. Okay. There we go. I changed it to host only. So let me go back there. There we go. Make sure I got the same. Okay, we all here? At the, if you are better, have you ever seen this? Okay, hopefully we can all see it now. Okay, perfect. All righty. So we already talked about this one. And this is similar to the last one in a way. When you are a better, do you criticize others' choices? You know, you may see the tiles played in a manner you consider unwise. No one wants to hear your opinion. So zip it. Just like the little cartoon here says. Nobody wants to be criticized while they're playing. Everybody has the right to make their own choice and to feel good about the choices they make. So you don't want to put a damper in their day. Do you let others know they didn't do a joker exchange? Oh my goodness. This is probably one of the big ones. One of the biggest ones. Look, everyone, she threw a joker, or oops, you missed the joker. Well, there might be other reasons why somebody missed the joker. Okay? You don't need to say anything because you have now let everybody else know as well. And sometimes people miss things because they're busy doing other things. So we don't need to let everybody know what someone else is doing. Okay? Okay, I don't experience this too often these days, but I did have a very lovely, dear, sweet aunt, may she rest in peace, that had the worst habit of chewing gum no matter where she was, but especially around the mahjong table. And she did that cracking of her gum where you make that bubble inside your mouth as you're, I don't even know. I tried to do it once and it must be some kind of gift, an evil gift. But she did that. And I'm telling you, I couldn't stand it. I don't know how her friends could stand it, but it used to drive me crazy. And of course, I didn't say anything back then. I was just a kid. So I just I just zipped it basically. But yeah, this is something that, you know, maybe some of you have even done yourself or have experienced. Do you chit chat a tad too much during the game? Oh my goodness. Really? Take a look at this little cartoon. I mean, these are things that go on quite a bit around the mahjong table, right? But we could do this chit-chatting a little bit more while we're building the walls, mixing the tiles and building the walls. And just keep quiet so we can concentrate while we're playing the game. Now, some of you watching might be a lot younger than me, but I'm going to speak from my own perspective, and that is I lose track a little bit more these days than I used to. And okay, in all fairness, beginner players lose track too. So there's a lot of good reasons not to do a lot of chit chat. What about your phone? Oh my goodness, this is a big one. A friend of mine just told me a story recently about a situation that happened. Somebody was checking her texts constantly and texting during the game, and other people were getting distracted. Oh, and then she took offense because somebody said something right there in front of everybody, and it embarrassed her, and it was a mess. Look, you might have an unusual situation where you have a sick spouse, or you may be waiting on an important phone call from a doctor's office, or a variety, or if you're younger and you have young kids, you might be waiting. I remember, because I started playing in my 20s, there were times where, you know, I knew if the phone rang during school hours, I was like, I would hold my breath, you know, what is it? Hopefully it wasn't bad behavior going on, because they hadn't yet listened to this live stream. But no, yeah, so, you know, it is just one of those things where you really, really have to take into consideration the circumstances. And if you cannot put it on silent, or you're not comfortable with it on vibrate, let everybody know that you are waiting on an important phone call, and that you'll take a look at it. If it's not, you'll turn it immediately off. And, you know, sure, they're gonna forgive you about that and understand. Why not? All right, the next one we have here is, do you take too long to make your move? Well, yes, we experience this more often with newer players. And how do you remedy this? Well, you remedy this by becoming a better player. And there's a variety of things that you can do. You could read books, you could take strategy lessons. Today I just did one with a gal, a one-on-one coaching session. There are ways to learn how to move the game along, how to move your turn along. If you're not told the different ways to do this during the different phases of the game, you'll never know it. And every single move is going to be not just painful for you, but painful for the others sitting around. So you've got to be able to get to a point where you can play a faster game. That's what it's all about. I don't mean like fast, speedy, although there are some players that play very fast, and there are some that require every one of their Mahjong friends to play at a certain speed. Well, you know, you're going to enter that group only if you are a fast player. All right, let's see. This is another one for me that's a biggie. I am not a fan of serving food that can create a mess on your tiles, like chocolate, because chocolate melts. So if I'm going to serve food, I do serve things that are not, you know, like pretzels or something that's not going to get on your or popcorn. But there are people that have brought their lunch to a game, and even though there are side tables around, I have seen them actually holding their sandwich in one hand over the tiles and playing with the other hand. I mean, I think I've seen it all, and some of you probably have too. Not good etiquette, really. Oh, this is another big one. Are you a humble winner? Well, I mean, it's great to win the game, but I think it's really nice when you win the game and you let someone else congratulate you, which is another slide coming up. You don't want to boast about winning the game. You know, if you've been losing all day and you win a game and you say, finally, you know, that's not really boasting about the game. But I see people that get really excited. And this is the next one. Do you congratulate the winner when they win? Everybody loves to hear that. Come on, we're not playing for big stakes, right? We're playing for quarters here in this game. But no matter what, when you've accomplished something, it's nice to hear someone tell you you did a good job. So keep that in mind. All right. Are you a complainer? Oh my goodness. This one's a big one. Big one, big one. I haven't gotten a joker. Does your set have jokers? I haven't won a game in weeks. I'm on a losing streak. I even had recently somebody who was a newer player get so upset that she lost that she just, I think she literally threw her tiles in and she said, "This is not fun." Well, come on, we can't win every game, right? We can't win every game. 1 out of 4 of us is going to win, and we all go through winning and losing streaks. So try to keep the complaints down a tad, because believe it or not, your Mahjong friends really don't want to hear it. All right, ever know anybody who did any humming, whistling, or singing while they were playing? I have. I've been at fault. I almost don't want you to put on the 50s music channel when I'm playing Mahjong, because I know all the words to those songs. I can't remember anything 5 minutes from now. But I'm telling you, when you put on the 50s music, it's almost like an automatic thing. So I have to work on that myself, for sure. Anybody know anybody who did any finger tapping on the tiles or on the rack? I have. I have, for sure. This is another thing. I don't think it's as common, but I definitely have had people do it. Probably a nervous head, of course. Whoops, got it. And the next one is actually something new that I added recently, because these other ones have been on my whole list of my golden rules, which go into more than just the etiquette and sportsmanship items. But this one I thought was worthy enough to add and talk about for just a minute. Somebody had, well, many people have asked in my Facebook group, Ask the Mahjong Teacher, about whether you should or shouldn't call a player's hand dead. And tonight is not about strategy, of course, so we're not going to go into all the reasons why you should or shouldn't call another player's hand dead. But I do want to say this. Somebody, I had responded with the strategies, a little bit of strategy about why you should or shouldn't. And some other person had answered my response and had mentioned that as a beginner player, it could be very humiliating or embarrassing when you make a mistake and someone calls your hand dead. So I responded to that player. The gist of it was that, you know, playing any game, first of all, comes with rules. We started learning these rules as very young kids. I think it was, I want to say, I think I quoted the game Sorry, but it's either Sorry or Chutes and Ladders, or one of those games where, you know, if somebody lands on you, it might be both of those games, you have to go all the way back to the beginning and start all over again. And as a kid, sometimes those experiences can become uncomfortable, even painful, upsetting. Of course, if we're a parent teaching our child while we're, you know, playing, or we're teaching them the game, we need to make sure we instill in them the fact that you can't always win. These are the rules of the game. You know, someone's going to lose, someone's going to win the game, and you have to be a good sport about it and be happy for the winner. And that's where it starts. It's the same thing with Monopoly. Go to jail, right? I mean, look, I don't, every single game has its rules, and not all rules are positive when it comes to how we play the game. So when it comes to calling a hand dead, it is a rule of the game. You aren't required to, but you can and should if it's your choice to do so based on the strategy. The recipient of this, who as an adult is feeling that she is less or she is embarrassed or uncomfortable, I feel should maybe re-examine that a little bit to try and dig a little deeper to what's causing that reaction, because that's what we talked about earlier on. That is a behavior-driven thing that stems from somewhere. Somehow, it could be something as little as, hearing a parent say constantly, you're bad, you're wrong, you're inadequate, you can't do anything right. There was an old school mentality, and that's how a lot of our parents and our parents' parents brought kids up. Kids were to listen and not be heard. Things like that went on. And so I can understand where this can come from. But I say this only because if you experience something like this during the game, it is not directed at you personally. You have to understand it is a rule. Rules are meant to be followed. It has nothing to do with you. And you are probably the greatest, most wonderful, kindest human being out there. You just have to separate that, whatever it is, whatever that emotion is that's creating that, because it's not comfortable to feel those sorts of things. It really isn't. And okay, so now can you relate? I'm going to open this up in a minute so we can talk a little bit about this. There is no rule book to teach these sort of things. If you are an instructor, I say it all begins with you. So etiquette and sportsmanship. So I do encourage my fellow instructors out there to make it a part of your lesson plan. Tasteful habits and inappropriate behavior displayed through poor etiquette or rudeness affects everybody at the table. We don't want to turn a fun game into a battlefield. Now, how do we handle these sort of things? Well, I have my little list. You might have some more to share after. We want to lead by example. I mentioned that earlier. When people see other people doing things properly, it definitely makes them want to follow, or they may even ask, they may even question, are you supposed to do that way? I wasn't taught that way. It opens up conversation. It is the greatest way, leading by example. Work on one change at a time. If you are watching this and you're like, oops, I do that, take one thing and work on one thing at a time. You cannot make changes in big bulk of situations or in a short amount of time. It just does not work at all. Now you have a choice of letting it go to keep the peace. So if somebody's doing something that's real annoying around the Mahjong table, you could certainly let it go and keep the peace. Some people can do that. Or I suggest have a private conversation with the other players to see if they are bothered by that same behavior. And if they are, meet with your friend to discuss in a non-confrontational manner. And I was able to put this in place one time with a friend, and we went out for coffee, and I just kept remembering, don't point, say all the positive things first. Don't point a finger. I did everything. I did my studying on how to communicate positively and effectively to this friend of mine. And it was so well received that I was thanked by her. Now, look, this could go all wrong as well. And again, if you are meeting with someone who is extra sensitive and there is something from the past, something that's happened or repeated or whatever from the past, it could go all wrong. And that person could lose a friend. I mean, it could happen that way. So you have to make a decision. It really is a decision. Mm-hmm. The final thing would be to find another group to play in. And I myself did leave a group at one time. Actually, myself and a friend left, but we spaced it in between a few weeks worth of time so that the person hosting it wouldn't know that it was because of her. We wanted to be a little gentle on how we did that. So we kind of spaced it. We gave different reasons. For me, I was going to be moving, so that was kind of a good thing for to be able to do that. But look, you may have other things. So I'm gonna open it up. Before I do, I just want to mention that I greatly appreciate your support by following me on my Facebook groups. Ask the Mahjong Teacher, MahjCon. Appreciate you joining my Facebook groups. Instagram is MahjCon, and also subscribing to my MahjCon YouTube channel. That also helps me be able to produce more content for you guys. I don't know if any of you even imagine what goes into putting these presentations together. It's research, it's the creative part of it, it's the time. I do it because I'm passionate about the game and I love bringing this content to you, and I want to be able to continue to. So all I ask for is that you support me by following me on Facebook, Instagram, and MahjCon channels. Okay, last screen here, and I'll start sharing this. Thank you for joining us tonight. Agnes, you love to hear from you, so go ahead, Agnes.
Oh, a habit that I had when I was a new player was picking my tiles so that people could see what I was picking up. And one of the more experienced players said to me, Agnes, you really should put your thumb over your tiles when you're picking them up so that people can't see what you're doing. And I do that now when I teach that now to my students. But I thought that was a very good way to deal with it. And she did it very nicely.
Oh, that is excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Agnes. Great tip. Okay, so anybody else have anything to share? Or any questions?
Two things in my group that you didn't mention, but every week I send an email out to them just to remind them. I mean, we have anywhere from 6 to 8 tables every week, and we play in a pretty small room. So one thing that people complained about, so I pass it on, is tardiness. We like to start at, we tell them 12:45, but by the time we do a count and figure out the tables and all, we really don't get started till 1 o'clock. But I tell them that they have to be there by 12:45, and I've already sent the same person home twice because we just couldn't fit her in, and she hasn't been back in a couple weeks now.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that is definitely, when you're playing in a larger group like that, can definitely be problematic because we're relying on those bodies, right?
and a lot of us come early, like I'm there at 11:30 because I meet a whole group of the women for lunch first. So, I mean, it's at a moose hall, so lunch is available. So, you know, if they can't make it there by 12:45 when I'm there at 11:30, you
I
know.
know, I know.
The
it's
other
true.
thing that people complain to me about, now it doesn't bother me, but it bothered a lot of the women, is people were wearing heavy perfume, and a lot of women are allergic to the perfume.
Yep,
So
that's another big
I
one in big groups, and
I
it is.
remind them that, and one of the women brought me a tournament flyer, and it at this tournament they forbid any kind of perfume or body lotion.
And that's
So,
on mine. That's on my tournament rules too,
oh,
Phyllis.
okay.
Yes.
So,
But I love that. And with your permission, I am going to add being late and
oh,
wearing
absolutely.
perfume when you're, especially in larger groups.
Right. And like I said, we do play in a small room, and there's overhead fans that we can control, but you know, it gets crowded in there. So
Yeah.
anyway, those are the two things I
Yeah,
thought of.
Agnes too. Anybody who gives me a suggestion, if you don't mind, I do like to add
Oh,
all of that
absolutely.
to yeah, because look, I learned from you
No
guys as
problem.
to, you know, lessons learned, I call it. So, you know, even from my last time I did this live stream over a year ago or whenever it was, you know, I was able to make a lot of improvements to it. All right, any more? If you don't know how to find your hand, just unmute and start talking. You have anything?
Well, I got out of mute, but the hand didn't appear. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
I mean,
Susan, did you have something to
Susan
say?
had her hand up.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I've been playing less than a year. And I'm getting much faster. I consider myself a pretty good player within the group I'm in. And I'm still struggle with two things. Charleston, some people like grab the tiles fast and then we kind of get out of control. And I always say, you know, like, don't grab the tiles, but that's a minor thing, but not the Charleston, the passing out of the tiles. But, and the, like just the passing out. I keep trying people to slow it down so we don't get an uneven number. But during the Charleston, I've asked people, and we've kind of talked in our group, like, let's not look at your tiles until everybody's passed, because some people get ahead and I'm waiting for my right and people have finished the across. And I've addressed it and I've been very specific, and I'm wondering, I consider that kind of an etiquette thing because I'm on edge and I'm not a slow Charleston person, but if I'm still looking at one set and everybody's waiting for me to pass the next set, do you have any solutions?
I have a lot, yeah, I have a lot to say about it. So, first of all, the passing out the tiles. Do you have somebody doing that, or is each person picking their own tiles?
We try to have East do it. Some people, because of where they played other, you know, they grab it. And I've said also, like, please, everybody just touch their own tiles. I mean, I've even, you know, I'm as clear as I can be without. So we've articulated, you shouldn't touch people's tiles, but if people have been playing for 15 years and they join our group, those are habits that it's hard for them to break.
Okay, so first thing is the rule of the game is that there is no dealer, even though we call it dealing the tiles. There's no dealer in Mahjong. Everybody takes their own group of 4, and then you never can get out of sync the tiles, and they're going too fast. They may miss a tile. So each player is responsible for their own picking. That's the rule. Bottom line, that's the rule. And when that happens, it could go fast. It doesn't matter because, you know, you're watching. This game is a very visual game. And so you're watching. This one picks, the next one picks. You now know it's your turn. If you have to be nudged, it's your turn, pick, then you're not paying attention, okay? That's number one. So everybody deals their own tiles. Everybody should be watching. The tiles should be put in stacks of 4 on the card until East has taken their first and third, and everybody else takes their 13th, okay? And that's the way it should be done. That's the deal part. That should solve the issue that you're experiencing, okay? Now, as far as the Charleston goes, okay, I'm going to compare it to something. I'm going to do an analogy, right? So you go somewhere to play. You go to a tournament to play or a big public facility. And one person, several people, you know, always run hot. They're never cold. They run hot. And there's always a few people in that facility that are in that group that complain, it's freezing, it's freezing, it's freezing. And they want the air conditioner put up. Well, you've got people that are freezing, people that run hot that aren't bothered by it all, that say, oh, this feels great, this is great, right? So there are situations where it is our responsibility to make the change. In the situation of a room being too cold, you come prepared. You wear long pants, you bring a hoodie or a sweater or something like that so that you're able to feel comfortable in that situation. When it comes to the Charleston and you're struggling with other players going too fast, it's not up to them to slow down for you. It's up to you to get up to snuff with being a better player. And I say this with kindness in my heart because we all start out as beginners, okay? And we all eventually get to the point of being a player. Now, if you were invited into a group of people that know you're a beginner, they may be very understanding and they may all agree to slow it up for you. But in general, Mahjong players want to play a fast-paced game. They want to get in more games. They want to get it on. You know, let's get this Charleston done. Let's start the game. They're excited. They know the card, right? So I you know, and I don't do these live streams as a means to pitch my classes or anything like that. I only say it because you're mentioning this. And I do tell you this, and I say this, and I really mean it, that one-on-one coaching, which I did today and I do quite often with players, totally changes the way you proceed with your tiles from the time you get them to the time you finish that last Charleston move. And if you haven't had the opportunity to experience something like that, I encourage you to reach out to me. I'll put my email here. And you can reach out to me and we can talk about how to make this happen. I'm just going to put it in here. It will seriously change the way you play as long as you stick to the system. If you don't stick to
So-
the system, you're not going to change. So
Right.
your goal should be, God, I got to get my game up. I've got to up my game. I've got to get to that next level.
Right.
That's
So, no, I hear everything you're saying. And I appreciate it. I play in two separate community groups, and one of the groups has a teacher who's taught many of the people, and it seems like the culture where I play is we just like we slow the Charleston down and so I'm kind of moving along with what the culture which is like, don't rush everybody. We get confused and we don't know where we're at with the Charleston. So what you're saying is everybody should be pushing themselves to just make those decisions faster. Not ask
100%. You're not going to,
okay.
Susan, it's not going to happen overnight. You know, when you're first playing with beginners, and I have the same thing in my beginner group, after they learn and they play at the tables, everybody's at that same slow pace, right? But they got to get to the next level. You got to go from beginner to advanced beginner, from advanced beginner to intermediate, and move up, because you want to be a player that everybody wants to play with out there. And once you're going into a variety of places, community centers, or somebody, you hear that somebody's looking for somebody to join their group, you want to be somebody that you know is going to enjoy playing with and want to make a part of their group. If they think you're not quite ready, you're not going to get invited back. It's as simple as that. Like I said, there are some people that have a totally different attitude, and they might be, oh, don't worry, we'll slow down, we'll help you. But that's not the majority of the people that I know that play this game.
No, it's a great reminder, because I'm following the herd, and the herd is, let's slow down. These people are rushing too much. And you're saying not necessarily, that's not helping anybody. So
No,
I get it.
no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're welcome. Anybody else? No? Okay, let me check out YouTube. I don't see any questions there.
I have one question.
Okay,
So
sure.
one of the things I do is I pick up the tile and then I don't even rack it, I just throw it out. Is that bad form? Do I have to put it in the rack, or is it okay just to pick it up, give it a fast look, I know I don't want it, I just throw it out?
Well, okay, if you're playing with 3 other players that are also fast, what I consider fast-paced players, you can do it. There's no rule that says you can't do that, okay? But if you're playing with a mixture of people, etiquette would lead me to telling you to pick the tile, rack it, and then discard it. You get about 2 to 3 seconds in between picking, racking, discarding. It gives other people those few seconds to make a decision about the prior tile that was discarded. Not everybody's brains work really fast, okay? Sometimes we need to see it and look and then, make that decision. But fast, I've been in games like that, fast, pick and discard, and that's great when everybody's at that level. But if they're not, I recommend pausing a beat or two in between picking, racking, and discarding.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that then concludes tonight, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. Good night, everybody. It's been a pleasure as always. Practice, practice, practice until I see you all again, and be well. Good night, everyone.